1 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 10, a scripture we've heard already this morning, it mentions greed. In 1 Corinthians 6 verse 10, Paul wrote, "Thieves, greedy people, drunkards, revilers, and extortioners will not inherit God's kingdom." So those expressions, in particular, thieves, greedy people, drunkards, and extortioners, involve the subject we're talking about this morning. A drunkard is greedy for alcohol and the effects that alcohol brings on him, and he gets drunk repeatedly. So those three designations, a thief, an extortioner, and a drunkard, refer to people who are overcome by greed. Just how serious is greed? There are varying degrees of greed, but ultimately all greed has no place in God's kingdom arrangement. Those who are greedy will not be counted worthy of the kingdom of God. Those who are incorrigibly greedy, that is, incapable of being reformed or changed, corrected, will be eliminated. They will not live under God's kingdom.
Bram, before you go, I wanted to talk to you about something. I should have brought it up earlier, but it was kind of tough. Last week I had a relapse and got drunk. And I don't know. I'm just wondering if this practice of getting drunk is something I can get over, or if it's just a part of who I am.
Actually, there's a nice thought in 1 Corinthians 6:11 that reminds us.
Yeah, I thought about that one. You're talking about the scripture that says, that is what some of you were. But I'm not talking about what I used to be. I'm talking about what I still am. Bram, if change were possible for me, I think I'd be over this by now.
There's an experience in the May 1st, 2012 Watchtower, here on pages 20 and 21. And it gives the experience of
Brother Anthony Morris,
who serves at one of the branch offices. But you'll notice before he came in the truth, it says he was a binge drinker.
Really?
Yeah, in fact, why don't you read these sentences here at the top of page 21.
Okay, he says, although I experimented with various drugs, I stuck with drinking, as I found it to be the most enjoyable. Soon I had gone from drinking a few glasses of wine to more than a bottle at a time. I became an expert at hiding just how drunk I really was.
Does that sound like someone you know?
Sounds like me last week.
Hello, everybody.
Is it just me, or do you French find it extremely hypocritical listening to a district convention assembly talks like we just showed and come to the conclusion that the governing body members don't even follow the BS that they want the rank and file to follow? I mean, is that hypocritical or what?
I know it. And it was ironic that he said that he got drunk just last week. And it was just last week that
Yeah.
Aunt Mo was seen in the liquor store, the Bottle King. Now, what I want to make comments on is, first of all, in all seriousness, all
Yes.
kidding aside, this is a very serious issue with one's. Now, we know Anthony Morris alleges to have been in the Vietnam, I believe it was, in actual combat, when he was in the
Or a
military.
doctor or medic or
Yeah,
something
we've
like
all
that.
heard him say that, the bodies were like human hot dogs laying
Right.
all over. So we know, he claims to have been in combat. Unfortunately, this is a very real problem with those veterans who have been in combat, as they suffer from PTSD and depression and anxiety and so many problems. And most of them, it leads to alcoholism and suicides,
Drug abuse,
depression, a whole list of problems on top of any, health problems they may have from this. So, we recognize and we understand that this is a very real problem with those who have been in combat.
But with that being said, Tony, you don't really think we're going to let this go, do you? Because the issue here is, Tony, Watchtower Babble Crap Society, if you have already destroyed so many lives, you are responsible for breaking up families. You are responsible for causing many Jehovah's Witnesses to become depressed in their own skin, just like you, Tony. I mean, come on. In all reality, you're going to drive almost 50 miles to hide a guilty conscience buying that amount of alcohol? Jesus H. Christ, if that had been any other rank and file member, you know damn well their asses would have been held or hauled behind closed doors and immediately disfellowshipped. And guess what? We know several Jehovah's Witnesses that were disfellowshipped for possessing even less booze than what you were purchasing, knucklehead.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Now I'm going to make a confession here. As a Jehovah Witness, I used to buy lottery scratchers. I felt the same way. I could not buy them in town in case one of my brothers or sisters saw me buying lottery tickets, you know. So I would have either my dad, who was not a witness at the time, you know, or I would wait until I was out of town
Here's a
to,
couple bucks, Dad.
yeah, you know, he was buying them for himself. So it's like, hey, you know, here's $4, buy me a couple of scratchers, you know. But see, this is how it is. You know, you feel guilty that a brother or sister, you know, a fellow witness may feel bad about seeing you do something like this. So you have to go out of town to do this. You know, just what did your mom say about an affair?
Well, yeah, you know, I recall my mother one time mentioning that if she was ever going to have an affair, she would go out of town and do it so that she would not bring reproach on Jehovah's congregation, organization. And this is the guilt. This is the guilt that we see Tony Morris expressing right here.
Fear?
Tony, forget the damn two-witness rule. You're done, chump. You are done.
Try thousands of witnesses now, you know, video. That's not good.
But you know what, though? I honestly don't expect the Watchtower Babble Crap Society to do nothing, to do anything about this. You know why? Because we all watched the other idiot governing body member swear on the Bible. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God! And then he turned around and lies right through his teeth. You Jehovah's Witnesses have got to recognize one thing right here. This organization has got a higher claim over your life than what you do. And the proof is in the pudding that they will not hold to the same laws and rules that they expect you to. But see, Tony's got to go out of town to hide his guilt conscience. So you've got to ask yourself, why are you continuing to let these idiots have a higher claim on your life than what you do?
Yeah. Now, I want to mention that, like Mike had mentioned, you know, we know of many who were disfellowshipped for drinking. Our son-in-law, his brother, was disfellowshipped for drinking a few beers. You know, and you talk to many people in, you know, in the XUW community, and everybody knows somebody that was disfellowshipped for drinking. I know some that was disfellowshipped in Cottonwood, Arizona, because they used to go down to Mexico. Now, in Mexico, there is no drinking limit.
That's right.
So the teenagers would go with their parents, and then they'd start partying and drinking. There was always judicial hearings when they came home. So, you know, my feeling is, you know what? Tony Morris, he can drink as much as he wants. I don't care. You know, that's his prerogative. If that's how he gets through the day, fine. That's great. But don't be a hypocrite about it. You know, this governing body has rules and policies, that there is a judicial committee formed for someone, who is drinking, who has been drunk in public. How many times has Aunt Mo been given a talk and he's kind of like goofy? I was just spending hours watching Anthony Morris talk, trying to find these clips. And there's times where he's got the red cheeks and the red nose. Well, my grandfather was an alcoholic. I know what alcoholics look like. They get that red nose and then the red spots on their cheeks, when they've been...
So why don't we just share some of the clips that we found and maybe add our 2 cents worth?
Sure.
Likewise, we have to admit, here in Satan's world, various storms continue to come our way. Maybe you're not in the middle of one now, but it won't be long. Guaranteed in Satan's system that we're going to face various storms. And they arise suddenly. As the storm that we're talking about related to Jehovah's great day approaches, we have to maintain our focus on Jesus. And sometimes all of us can find it where maybe he's out of focus for us for a little while. Well, you got to refocus. So if he's really out of focus for anybody listening, you got to refocus. That's what I have to do. That's what you have to do. Focus on Jesus. That gets us through any trial. What do you want to say? What were you doing before the Great Tribulation broke out?
Oh, there was so much in this clip.
Yeah, there's more to come, friends. Hey, Tony, you don't need to be worrying about what you are doing when Jesus arrives, because we already caught you. See, for you, this is the big A. This is the storm that you didn't expect. It's the great day of the apostates. Thank you very much. Because, look, Tony, all you got to do is Google your name and alcohol and booze, and OMG, the amount of videos that pop up. Talk about, presenting yourself as, the ruling class with Jesus Christ. I mean, come on, guys, look. This monkey's ass is telling you, Jehovah's Witnesses, that when I die, I'm going to go to heaven and I'm going to be ruling with Jesus Christ in paradise earth for 1,000 years. Really? You're presenting yourself as a drunk, Tony. You really can't expect anybody to take you serious at this point. That you're going to be ruling with Jesus Christ, setting new rules.
Judging
the
ones here on earth, the rank and file.
Putting a higher claim over everybody's life who happens to survive Armageddon. Come on, Jehovah's Witnesses, you just cannot take this serious any longer. It's a joke.
Well, it reminds me of the scripture in Revelation where these anointed didn't violate themselves with women. And then,
Yeah,
what about didn't
drunk?
violate yourself with booze?
See, the problem is, Tony, you and your organization, you created this storm by disfellowshipping so many people over trivial little items. Now these people, well, hell, payback is a bitch, isn't it, Tony? Because, you go ahead and drive 50 miles out of town to go and buy a sharpened cart full of booze, but you never know who's going to have a camera recording you and innocently asking you, hey, wait a minute, could you tell me anything about whiskey? Jesus. Oh, my, yeah.
I know. And he says, you need to keep Jesus in focus. And, if he gets a little blurry, well, maybe he's a little blurry because you've been drinking too much. Things do get a little blurry.
Yeah.
I've never gotten to that point to where I've drank so much that things were a little blurry, but I've heard that can happen.
But, Tony, please tell me, at what point did the pink elephant start arriving?
I don't know, but there was sure a nice white Cadillac out in the parking lot he got into, wasn't there? Oh, good Lord. Oh, good Lord.
Next clip.
Yes.
Matthew 7, and we're going to read verse 1. Stop judging, that you may not be judged. So he says stop it because he knew his listeners were doing it. And he's telling God's people here at all these conventions, stop it, because I know some of you are doing this. And judges always feel like they're so intelligent. You know, these critics the same way. I can find fault anywhere I look. I am so smart. Take me anywhere on the planet, I can find fault. Well, Jesus is saying, stop it.
Look at the way the governing body has set up these rules and policies to where the elders and the circuit overseer and all judge the rank and file. You know, how many circuit overseers talks have we seen? Oh, you're not doing enough. You know, you need to do more. You know, you're focusing on your career and all of this. You know, that's not good enough. You need to do this. Look at the elders. You know, tell me, if this wasn't a rank and file member who was caught, you know, doing this by an elder. I mean, I know of a young brother that was in a sports bar, and I mean, I don't even think he was drunk, and there was judicial meetings. So, you know, tell me, if this wasn't a rank and file member, there would definitely be a judicial hearing over, you know, something like this. But here, you know, is a governing body member. What kind of message does this send now to everybody? Because we know the Jehovah's Witnesses are watching, you know, YouTube videos.
Of course.
And all you have to do is Google Anthony Morris on YouTube, like Mike said, and hundreds of these videos come up with him in this liquor store. So what kind of message is that sending, not only to Jehovah's Witnesses, but to the world? It becomes, Aunt Mo becomes a laughing stock and the butt, and I do mean butt, of all the jokes now on YouTube.
Yeah. You know, it's a crying shame that when the Jehovah's Witnesses sit in an audience, they're taking this information and applying it to themselves personally. But the governing body doesn't. And neither do the elders. The guerrilla squad just can't wait to get somebody in that back room to pass judgment. And in fact, that judgment in most cases is predetermined even before the guerrilla squad gets your ass in that back room. Because we have recording after recording after recording of Jehovah's Witnesses, now ex-members, saying that they were prejudged even before they went into that back room. So why, Tony, answer me this, why is your guerrilla squad, aka the elders that are fully indoctrinated, not listening to your counsel? Is it because they think that you're a joke too? Come on, get with the program. Here again, guys, higher claim over your life now comes from the governing body idiots down to the guerrilla squad. Because and personally, this is a rank and file caused issue, because every time a rank and file member says, oh brother, could you please help me, oh brother, I've sinned, yada yada yada, you are now allowing that person to lay claim over your life. And unfortunately, you're the ones that are going to suffer the consequences, because you're the ones that get disfellowshipped, and then you're the ones that sit and cry because your family's shunning you, because you have allowed someone else, by asking a question like that, to lay claim over your life.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
I like how he says, you know, to stop judging harshly.
It's never going to happen.
And he's given this advice, you know, oh, well, Jesus, you know, said this, and not to be judging harshly. But what do elders and, like Mike says, this guerrilla, you know, goon squad do? They're judging harshly.
That's all they do.
And we've even seen it in the XJW community towards us this past year.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, the Gestapo, you know, Bible bullies. It's like, oh my goodness. You know, they just will not stop. And it's like, talk about judging harshly. You know, you wouldn't believe some of the hate I have gotten in some of the emails, and, you know, like Monica brought out, you know, judging harshly. So many judge others. Mike and I feel, you know, live and let live. You know, believe what you want. But, we would like the same consideration, but we don't get that.
That ain't gonna happen.
But, the thing is the rank and file, there should be an uprising over this
You need to demand.
because the elders are judging others harshly over every little infraction. But yet, Anthony Morris is probably going to get off scot-free
course
for
he will.
this, because it's like, oh, well, I was just stocking up, for a party or something like that. And it's like, okay, yeah, okay, you're fine.
But the
It's just the
problem is-
apostates, spreading these half-truths and lies about you, and slandering you that is making this bad. So, they're going to blame the apostates for all of this.
But the problem is in an episode like this, you can see the fear that dwells inside of Tony, because in order to ease his conscience, not to bring reproach on the congregation or to the branch of the world headquarters, he's going to drive nearly 50 miles away on a Sunday morning. Now, I'm not going to
In the
assume,
rain.
I'm not going to assume he's skipping a meeting, because his meeting could be in the afternoon. I don't know that. But the very fact that he has to drive so far away from home to do this tells me that he's got a guilty conscience. And yet, Tony, how's your conscience feel now because you got caught?
Well, the thing is, he couldn't have asked like a gopher to go get this for him, because
Well, no.
then that gopher knows how much booze he's buying
Well, then that gopher
and
would have
hold it
to,
over his head.
then
So,
the gopher would have to turn him in.
yeah.
To who? Who do you turn the governing body members into? Because, you've got one sitting on the governing body that's a confessed liar. And now you've got one that apparently appears to be a drunkard.
Yeah. Now, I want to mention that I was looking all morning for a clip. Now, Mike and I remember Anthony Morris giving a talk, and
Yeah.
he was talking about his father, who was not a witness, and his father saying something about, the higher-ups of Watchtower pocketing money. There was some
Right.
question about the money being spent. And Anthony Morris is like, oh, well, Dad, I'm, the one in charge of the money. So then we've got to ask, was this out of his own pocket, or was this taken from dedicated funds?
And everybody doing YouTube videos is assuming it's dedicated funds. That's a safe assumption, because we all know that going to Bethel is a volunteer service. And you know damn well that the rank and file volunteer ain't making enough money to buy that kind of booze.
Well, I was going to say, my little brother, who was an elder, and his wife went into the International Building Committee. They were traveling all over the world. Their allowance, I believe, was only like $30 a month.
Yeah.
They couldn't even afford a flight home. My sister had to pay for that. So I have to ask, how much of an allowance is the governing body getting? That where, I'm sure the society gives them the Cadillacs to drive.
And I'm sure they're getting plenty of green handshakes.
Yeah, a lot of green handshakes, people giving them gifts of Rolex watches and stuff like that. So, how much of an allowance is the governing body getting? And if people are giving them these green handshakes, oh, here's $100, so you have the money to go spend over $900 on booze? I mean, my goodness, I don't even pay $20 for a bottle of booze.
Yeah, to us, that's like high dollar booze.
Yeah, I mean, my goodness. It's like, oh my goodness, it's $18 a bottle. No, I'll get some of the store brand, whiskey that's like $6.
All right, next clip.
clip.
So don't be bogged down with these apostates, and be careful on the internet. We were talking about that this weekend with friends. My word, how many times did I tell you, be careful? Going here, going there, they'll suck you in. See, with some of this stuff, it can seem so innocent. We're just warning you that all we can do is admonish. Stick with what we have authorized. You'll be safe. You want to go out there, it's at your spiritual risk.
So be careful when you go out there, because you're at spiritual risk, you know.
How
And going here,
humiliating.
going there. Yeah, be careful about what stores you go into, you know. It could have been worse, though, dear.
What?
It could have been an adult movie theater, you know, instead of a liquor store.
Well, I'm sure somewhere on Tony's list of, approved things, he's got one somewhere in another town, maybe 300 miles away. But Tony, you don't get this. None of the governing body members get this. You have kicked out so many people out of this organization that we're all looking for an opportunity to act as a lynch mob, if you will. Because this is exactly retribution for tearing apart families and passing the BS that this organization passes.
And I know we've mentioned before, you know, us getting disfellowshipped. All it took was Mike's mom calling her elders and saying, oh, Mike and Kim have gone apostate. Now, I never said a word to anybody when we were waking up. So I was just lumped in because, you know, he had, you know, talked to his brother and shown him subliminal images.
So this is all my fault?
Yeah, it's your fault.
Oh.
It's your fault I got disfellowshipped. But the point being, it was all done on hearsay.
Right.
So if the rank and file can get disfellowshipped on hearsay without even going to a judicial meeting, you can see why many of us are upset over this, because there's video of this, there's proof of this.
It's no longer hearsay.
It's not hearsay, and I feel Watchtower really needs to do something. He needs to be removed, and he needs to have a judicial meeting, because if we were disfellowshipped on such a trivial matter, and all it took was his mom calling up her elders and slandering us, and then, you know, they call their our elders, and then our elders show up here, you know, oh, well, why would you use the Watchtower literature in a negative way to show your brother? And Mike says, well, I'm not the one that put the pictures in the literature.
That's right. I didn't put those pictures
You
there.
know, but
Watchtower did.
that was the start of the witch hunt, and we never met with him, we never talked to him again. So it was all in hearsay. So you can see why, you know, this is an issue with us.
Well,
And it's an issue with all of us.
yes, and it should be an issue with the current Jehovah's Witnesses that see this.
Yeah, the elders and circuit overseers should be calling headquarters and saying, look, something needs to be done about this. This is not good. This isn't just hearsay. There's video.
Yeah, exactly.
Next clip.
But they're spiritually insane. They don't have a chance.
Tony, you're the one that's spiritually insane. Think about what you did. You drove nearly 50 miles one way to buy a shopping cart full of alcohol. And then you drove another 50 miles back home. You did this because you didn't want another spiritual brother or sister catching you doing this. Who has the seared conscience? Who's the one that lives in fear, Tony? But see, this is just desserts for you, buddy old pal, because you and your organization has set policies that have ripped families apart, that have destroyed people spiritually, no less, and you, to ease your conscience about not getting caught by a fellow brother or sister, has to drive that amount of miles to feed your belly full of alcohol.
Well, like that first clip said in the demo, this is a greedy person. Watchtower itself says that a drunkard is a greedy person.
Exactly.
Watchtower condemns him. We didn't have to say a thing about that.
Well, that's like our first video that we put up. We used that that
will not be tolerated.
yeah, that intro
At
talk
Bethel.
At Bethel. So yeah, in here they're tolerating what Tony's doing. You know what? When Kim and I put up that video, we said nothing, but those two clips together spoke volumes, didn't it, Watchtower?
Yeah. But, to say, oh, they're spiritually insane.
He's the one that's
The
insane.
governing body and their policies are the one that are spiritually insane. Because, Mike mentioned, destroying people spiritually. What about destroying people morally, physically? Look at how many people commit suicide because they think they're going to die at Armageddon for drinking and for drugs.
Well, that brings up another good point. This guy and his elite goon squad will use the Bible as a means of control. Actually, the Bible is just a euphemism for people control. Just like gun control is a euphemism for people control. See, knuckleheads like Tony Morris here, they will use the Bible as a form of people control because they will dictate a moral code from that book. But they themselves, well, Tony shows, and the other idiot that lied under oath, they will not hold themselves to the same moral code that they demand you to be held to. Wake up. Figure this out because it's not that difficult, friends. It's not difficult at all.
Well, they keep bragging to the world that Jehovah's clean people.
Organization.
We hold to a higher moral standard.
No, they don't.
No.
No.
Like Mike mentioned before, his mom said, oh, well, if I was going to have an affair, I'd go to another town. The higher moral, guidelines and standards is not in your heart then.
No, it's not. It's not there.
It should be, you're not going to do it at all.
That's right, because I would never, ever contemplate anything like that at all. Never would I even contemplate that. And trust me, I would never drive 50 miles to go buy a shopping cart worth of booze because I would just do it locally if I were, because I'm not a heavy drinker. I mean, my God, I can't even remember the last stinking drink that I had in this house. But the point being is that you've got an organization that is dictating moral codes from a book that they believe is the end-all, the be-all regarding God, and yet they themselves will not hold to it.
Well, let me ask you, do you think if he would have went into a local liquor store there at Warwick and bought one bottle of whiskey and somebody saw him, do you think there would be this big of a stink?
Nobody would have cared.
No big deal. So he likes whiskey. Fine, most of us do. It wouldn't have been a big deal. But when you have to go 50 miles away and have a whole shopping cart, and I've heard some estimates that it was almost $1,000 worth of alcohol of what was seen in the cart. There may have been more because I noticed there was like boxes in there. Then that is when there is a problem when you get caught. It's not just one bottle. It's a whole shopping cart full. And $1,000? Oh my goodness. For us, that's like, what, 5 months worth of groceries?
Well, yeah. And that's, that's eating top ramen and macaroni and cheese.
No, I mean, we spend maybe $200 a month on groceries. So $1,000.
Yeah.
That's 5 months worth of groceries. But the point being is most of Jehovah's Witnesses, most of the rank and file are poor. They're uneducated. They have, window washers and janitorial work. We've been poor our whole lives. Most Jehovah's Witnesses are poor. Can you imagine if they had $1,000 to spend? It wouldn't be on booze. So again, what kind of example is this setting? When you have your gold rings, and all of your bling, and you're seen spending $1,000 on booze, how do you think that makes the rank and file feel?
That's right.
Knowing my own mother, she is on Social Security, doesn't make much. And as of, like 7 years ago, she could only afford to give $20 a month out of her Social Security. Can you imagine if she seen something like this, how she would feel? That she does without things to give that $20, or she'll go without a meal at night of a district convention just to be able to put $20 in the contribution box. Can you imagine how she would feel knowing that she is, depriving herself to put a lousy $20 in the box, and then this idiot is buying $1,000 worth of booze just to drink it down? How often does he do this? I know, Kimmy's royal.
Do we need to get to the next clip?
Yes. I know, Kimmy's royal. But like in this clip, I know it's just a cartoon, but a little kid who put their ice cream money in the contribution box, and it goes along with what I was just saying about my mom. How would they feel giving Watchtower their ice cream money and then seeing this on YouTube of Aunt Mo buying $1,000 worth of booze?
How do you justify that cartoon now, Watchtower? How in hell do you even begin to try to justify this? You're telling the poor young Jehovah's Witness to give up the ice cream money. Why? So you have now access to booze money? Because this is what this is saying, you rat bastard. This is what this is the message you're sending out there right now.
Yeah, and as we found out, Rutherford, during Prohibition, when there wasn't supposed to be, buying and selling of alcohol,
There they are.
he was sending away to Canada to get his cases of whiskey. And look how he has been condemned for doing this. So, like I said, Aunt Mo can do what he wants, but when you're being a hypocrite and saying, oh, well, you do what we say, but don't look at what we're doing because we're above our own rules and policies. That's what they're saying. They're above the rules and policies they give you.
Oh, I know what this relates to. Jussie Smollett.
How does it relate to Jussie Smollett?
Because this knucklehead's gonna get off scot-free.
True. Yep. All he has to do is have his buddies all sweep it under the rug, huh?
Right. Just like they did with the other knucklehead lying, to the government.
Yep. Are you ready for the next clip?
Yeah, I don't know how much more my heart can take.
Many people today find the idea of being controlled by anyone to be distasteful. I think you'd agree many in the world have this attitude. Nobody tells me what to do. Well, we have news for them in Ephesians chapter 2, whether they'll admit it or not. Here's the facts. Ephesians chapter 2. They all say they're thinking for themselves. And I don't know if you know the news, but my wife has a lot of Irish content.
I see you're a fan of Scotch. Do you know anything about Irish whiskey?
Yeah, not a lot. My wife likes it.
Yeah.
Jameson's always
Yeah.
Oh, nobody's gonna tell me what to do. Yeah, you can go buy as much booze as you want.
People tell you to think for yourselves. And this is the crux of part of this problem, Anthony, is that you are telling the rank and file what to do. You are telling the rank and file through your little magazines, oh, you don't need to spend much time in research because we have qualified brothers to do that for you. What that translates into is that you read our magazines and then we will tell you what to think, because this is exactly what this is. Then I have a question. If you don't honestly believe what you just spoken here, then you would have never gone out of town, because you'd have never ever been concerned with what people would have been saying about you buying that amount of alcohol in town. See, because you wouldn't care what people were thinking. You wouldn't care at all about this, but yet you did. And that, to me, my friend, I use that term loosely, that tells me you have an absolute guilty conscience about what you did.
And I find it funny that in that same clip, he's like, my wife has a lot of Irish content. Well,
of course.
Then, we had the clip of what he said in the liquor store about his wife and her love for Irish whiskey. So, of course, she has a lot of Irish content. Too funny. I mean, this is just too much fun.
You just can't make this shit up.
No.
You just can't make it up.
No, you can't. Because there's so much they have said and done in the past to now it's coming to bite them in the ass is what it's doing.
Yeah, exactly. And there again is that the base of ex-members is now well established. We're not afraid to go on YouTube and give our opinions now. We're not afraid to go on YouTube and point out how you are spiritually ruining people's lives, how you are ruining people's families, because you guys are literally speaking out of both corners of your mouth.
I think we have another clip.
Bring it on, I'm ready.
We try to be kind, but did Jesus say, I hope I didn't hurt the Pharisees' feelings when I behaved that way? Now, I don't have that kind of authority to go the length he did. Nonetheless, it's that devotion to Jehovah God. If we don't say something, shame on us. To allow that, Jesus would not approve.
I know we're not supposed to be disrespectful to the governing body. We need to show some respect. I hope we're not hurting their feelings.
Right. Here's the thing, Jehovah's Witnesses. You just heard what the man said. You need to speak out about this wrongdoing.
Yeah, and say stop it.
Yes. But you know what? The rank and file don't have the backbone to do that. And it's not that you don't necessarily have the backbone, is that you know what the consequences are going to be. Because the guerrilla squad will haul your butt in the back room, and then you're going to end up, at the very least, getting privately reproved. How dare you speak about our governing body in such a manner, Sister Brooks? Shame on you. You know what? Because you've done this for the next 6 months, we're going to pull your restrictions. You cannot give any talks in the Theocratic Ministry School, and you cannot answer any questions during the Watchtower study. Now, are we all clear, Sister Brooks?
Wouldn't be the first time.
See, this is what you're going to get for speaking out. And yet Tony Morris right here is telling you guys to speak out.
If you don't speak
Both
out,
corners of the mouth.
you need to say this. Wouldn't you love, I would love to see somebody hack into their system right when they're having a big convention
and
play
that.
the video of Aunt Mo at the liquor store to the entire convention that's being streamed, worldwide.
There is an almighty God, I'm telling you right now, because if that happens, there's proof right there. Game over.
Yeah, but at least, we may laugh and joke about it, but at least the rank and file would know what was going on. Because I can pretty well guarantee that my mom and his mom knows nothing about this, because they are so faithful that they're not going to go on YouTube, they're not going to watch any of these videos. And the faithful witnesses, the loyal Jehovah's Witnesses, they are not going, even if they do see something like, Aunt Mo in the liquor store, they're going to say, oh, well, that's not really him.
Yeah, they did it with Jeffrey Jackson. Oh, the apostates hired actors that look like. And they're going to say the same thing, because they will deny physical evidence is
Yeah.
what they will do, because that disturbs their comfort zone that they're living in their brain. Because you got to remember, see, Watchtower has indoctrinated all of us, but see, some of us have left. But see, Watchtower has indoctrinated all of us at one time or another that we are living in a spiritual paradise. See, we have this spiritual brotherhood right now.
Yeah. And you know that scripture they use, you know, they're not of our sort, so they leave.
So they
That's
leave.
why the apostates leave.
Right. That's
Well,
you're
now,
right.
now you know why.
Because I ain't of this monkey's ass sort.
No. We
Why?
were never heavy drinkers, so
Yeah.
that's why we were never part. We weren't part of the Cottonwood congregation because most of them were heavy drinkers.
My mother included.
His mom was the bartender.
Exactly.
And that's no joke. She really was. Every party with the alcohol, she was the bartender. And actually,
Yeah.
she was a bartender, working as a bartender before she became a witness. So,
Well, she was in the restaurant business, and yes, part of her duties was tending bar.
we got another clip.
Okay.
In our day as well. Now notice verse 31 of Ezekiel 33, 31 and 32. They will crowd in to sit before you as my people, and they will hear your words, but they will not do them. For with their mouth they flatter you, but their heart is greedy for dishonest gain. Look, you are to them like a romantic love song, sung with a beautiful voice and skillfully played on a stringed instrument. They will hear your words, but no one will act on them.
You know, Mikey, this is a good clip to end the video
Yeah.
because it's so appropriate.
Nobody's listening no more, are they?
Well, you know, the governing body. They're hearing the words from God's word, the Bible, but they're not acting on them.
Well, it sounds like a good harmonious song. You know, it looks good. Yeah, whitewashed graves. Bring a picture to anybody's mind right now?
Yeah. So he's actually talking about themselves.
That's what, yeah, exactly. Because they've thrown out so much stuff over the years that it's gotten to the point that nobody is going to listen because they're being caught as hypocrites.
This was actually from the 2017 annual meeting where he was talking about their preaching work and going out and finding those rightly disposed that are going to listen to them. Well, how can you have the rank and file or anyone out in the world listen to you when you won't listen to your own rules and policies?
Yeah.
So this is the hypocrisy that we're trying to expose.
Yes. You know, Tony, you threw yourself under the bus by doing what you did. And all we're doing is we're just backing up and having a run at you also. Because this is just pure hypocrisy at its finest from this governing idiot. Okay? So Jehovah's Witnesses, please continue to beg your governing body to exercise control over your life. Please continue to let these guys have a higher claim over your life and your property, because this is exactly what this organization is doing.
In your mind?
Yeah, they're telling you to donate to the worldwide work. Donate to Jehovah's organization. They're taking your property, and that property is your money. And that's why people are leaving this organization, because we've all had it up to here. We have drowned ourselves in this religious organization. Hypocrisy. We have drowned ourselves in your hypocrisy, because every time you open your mouth, hypocrisy comes out. Every time you think you're going to get away with something, like, you know, running 50 miles away to buy a shopping cart full of alcohol, your hypocrisy is exposed. You can't go anywhere, Jehovah's Witnesses, and in particular you, governing body members, without somebody there with a camera to expose your hypocrisy and to question you guys at your literature carts, and all you do is pack up and run away. You've got nothing anymore. People hear the words, but nobody's listening because we have all educated ourselves higher than what you've all been educated with, Jehovah's Witnesses, because we have learned to reclaim our own authority. We have now stepped up and said, wait a minute, nobody has any higher claim over your own individuality in your own property. Not even these monkeys' asses pretending to be Christians.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is, you know,
They just don't get it.
yeah. And I'm sure many feel the same way we have, that we're tired of people trying to take control of our lives, our minds, you know, our beliefs, anything like that. And we've had it, and we're saying no. We're going to take control of our own mind, our own beliefs, and our own thoughts,
And
and our own spirituality too.
And that takes a tremendous amount of research and a tremendous amount of meditation on what you're researching and how it all connects. Because I just find it so apropos. This very last clip, he reads that scripture, and oh, the people, you know, like a
Right.
wonderful song and everything else, yada yada yada. But nobody's listening to the words. And this is Watchtower right now, today. Nobody is listening to you, Watchtower. We've all had it. I mean, my goodness, when you can go on YouTube and find some channel like the Josh Bernstein show, and he exposes Watchtowers, child abuse policy, type in church militant and watch the expose that they just did on the Catholic Church and their child sexual abuse. In fact, there's a number of people today calling for the federal government to get in and step in and stop the child abuse. But with that child abuse comes the spiritual abuse, comes these guys like Tony Morris having a higher claim over your life. We're sick of it, Watchtower. Your members are sick of it, and Kim and I know beyond any shadow of a doubt that there's hundreds of thousands of your members sitting in there not listening at all. How do we know? Because they're calling us.
Yeah, I mean, if the small percentage, you know, that call us and they know of others who have just had it up to here, or ones who are awake but still have to go because they know what's going to happen. They're going to lose their friends and family.
Remember a week and a half ago, I got that call from that current member that says there's like 15 rank and file awake in the Kingdom Hall, and 4 of the elders are awake? Come on, Watchtower, it's over.
Or the elder that called us and said that he works out in service with young ones, encourages them to
go to school.
college and continue their education.
Yeah.
And just planting these little seeds here and there, you know, of waking people up.
And when idiots like this gets caught going to a liquor store on a Sunday morning, buying a shopping cart full of alcohol, you lose just that much more control. Because see, now we see your fear right there, Anthony.
Yeah. Now, we've done our mocking and comments. I just want to leave this on a serious note, though. Since Anthony Morris, you know, like we said towards the beginning, is a veteran, and he saw combat, and he was obviously traumatized by it, the way he talks about people look like human hot dogs, you know, just burnt and all of this. That he probably has, you know, some anxiety, some depression, and if he really is drinking this much, you know, and has PTSD, then you need to get some serious professional help.
Yeah.
You know, you shouldn't be in this position where there's a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, and trying to be an example to an entire world of Jehovah's Witnesses. It's time for you to step down.
Yeah.
Step down, take care of yourself. You know, you need to heal and, you know, get some help for yourself. Or was he there buying all, it was his turn to buy all the booze for the next governing body meeting on Wednesday morning?
Yeah, that's probably what it is. Jeez.
We just don't know.
No.
We don't know. But thank you so much for sticking with us during this long video. We appreciate all of you watching, and we appreciate, you know, all of your comments and emails and your love and support. And I hope you have a great weekend.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to leave comments in the comment section, because we know that the Jehovah Witness Thought Police will be there also.
Yeah. Well, this is just going to give more material to like that Darrow
knucklehead.
Wheelberg, you know, or Wheelberg, whatever his name is, you know. Because I guess in one of his latest videos, someone sent it to me and said he's a murderer because he hates apostates and wants us dead. Well, you know what, Darrow? I don't want you dead. I just want you to go away. You know, you're just one of those pesky little flies. And the thing is how could he possibly defend Anthony Morris?
Wait for it. He will.
Oh, it's coming. It's coming.
He will.
Well, just like he tried to defend himself, you know, of his little prison stint, you know, that, you know, oh, well, he's made mistakes, you know.
He's got a role model with Toni Morris.
That's the thing. That's the thing, is they have the role model
They've got
right
the role model.
here.
They lie and they drink.
And a message to the elders. Elders, how can you possibly disfellowship anyone from here on out for drinking too much?
Well, forget about doing it. How could you even think about doing it now?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You know, and like we mentioned, our son-in-law's brother, you know, ones that have been disfellowshipped for drinking too much, in their opinion. You know, how they owe them an apology.
Well, not only that, now Toni Morris has got caught outside the closet. In more ways than one.
Yeah. Anthony Morris was a closet drunk.
Explain that one to heaven.
And he's been found out. So we love you all, and you have a wonderful weekend.
God bless.
Bye.